What's up, folks? This is Rock My World, Episode 9, A House Divided. I'm JC Owens, your host, as always. Let's get at it, shall we? Alright, now, the reason I call it A House Divided, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Christ's little maxim, a house divided cannot stand. Well, in this case, a house divided could be applied to America. It could be applied to humanity in general. It can, be applied to any nation, any group of people. They can even do this to you and turn you basically, a little crazy by, causing you to compartmentalize your personality into different blocks, like a schizophrenic. Right, this is part of like what the MK Ultra and Monarch programs were looking at, seeing if you could make people create alters and stuff like this. And you can. Some of these same alchemical principles are being used all the time, right? Used all the time. The philosophy of fire, right? We talked about this, right? Just like, you take water and dump it onto a super hot fire, you get steam, and then you can snatch that steam up and use it to drive a steam engine, right? Just, right? Same kind of thing, right? This right versus left thing. They wind the right up, they wind the left up, and then they turn them loose on each other. Once they go at it and have, like, deemed each other enemies, right? Like, they both work together to tear the nation apart. And this is that alchemical breakdown that I've talked about before, right? They turn up the heat, the tension in this case. The heat is, the heat and tension, both represent the same thing in this formula, I guess you could say, right? You crank up that tension and you get things as hot as you can get them so that, like, the constituent parts of the thing you're heating up start to break down. They start to, like, break apart at their different, like, as they reach their different critical temperatures, right? So whichever material heat has a lower critical temperature will break away first, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. Okay, they do the same thing in order to cripple Americans and keep us from uniting against them. Who's them? Okay, well, this is the globalist elite. The corporations, the people that control both right and left sides of your government, our government, however you want to say it, right? The bankers, the people like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and so on and so forth. Okay, they pay influencers. I shared a video the other day talking about how they use social media influencers, just like they use the mainstream media, to peddle their narratives, right? They were, paying people $30 per 100,000 views to attack Candace Owens. I don't agree with everything she says, but she is right about some things. And it should tell you that something's wrong when, like, people try to, like, shut someone up. It's like I was saying earlier today in one of my posts, if your worldview is correct, then it should be able to stand on its own without having to bring in lies and manipulations, without having to silence your opponent. Let your arguments win your fights for you. Right? Like, you shouldn't have to tie your opponent's hands behind their back if you're a better boxer, right? If you can fight better, then you should be able to handle it. Well, that said, this brings me to things like, the war in Ukraine and the war in Venezuela, which really are the same scam. Same scam. Different excuses. The same scam. They tell the left, oh, hey, well, we got to go fight the Russians. Oh, the mean old Russians are going to get us all. Right? And then they, use that as the excuse to go kick off a war in Ukraine, which is connected to the Greater Israel Project and all that kind of stuff. Well, Venezuela is connected to the North American Union Project and that scam. And they're both connected to the One World Government scam. Right? Like, it's the same game that they're playing on us, folks. They're using this, and musicians, comedians, actors, like, they play their part. You get approached. You'll get emailed. I've received emails myself here and there over the years, to promote certain things during, like, an art exhibit I might be doing, or a show I might be putting on here or there. You get approached to be doing these things, and, they'll offer you free stuff, free promotions, gear, anything you can imagine. Whatever it is that you want, they will try to deliver to you in order to make you subservient to them. Once they get you on the hook taking things from them, it's no different. That's why I was telling you the story about my bad management experiences the other day. The drugs thing is just one face of this same trick, right? Once you're in hock, now you can't get out of it. You have the left, like with the food stamps thing. It's like, well, once you're on those things, like, well, now you can't get off. Now you're stuck, right? You are stuck on them. And then you have the right cheering it on like it's a good thing, but guess what, dudes? Like, AI and robots are about to put you out of work and put you in the line for benefits too, right? Like, they turn you against each other by convincing you that you're not all Americans. We are. We are all Americans. Like, that's what, like, how it is. And regardless of whether we like it or not, we're all, like, in the same boat. Same with the people of the world. Like, if we keep bickering with each other, if USA keeps fighting Russia, and, white keeps fighting people of color, and all this kind of stuff, if male and female keep fighting, if we keep doing this, then they will win. We will either stand together or we will fall separately. I promise you. That I can guarantee. But at the same time, we have to be careful and make sure that these bonds, like between nations, are only temporary, or we'll wind up with a one world government anyway. It's a very, very, tedious little tightrope walk we're doing here. Such is life, though, which is why I keep coming back to this fire and ice. Positive, negative, male, female, sun, moon, night, day, and the balance between them. Because it's through these imbalances, by encouraging these extreme imbalances, they are able to, harness that tension and, like, drive it towards their agenda, drive everything towards their agenda. That's the keystone to the whole thing, is convincing, like, an entity that is one, that it is not one. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Right? Like, I do not agree with some people, but I do not seek to silence anyone. I won't seek to silence anyone. I don't care what you say about me, or what you throw at me. I will always argue back with the truth. Like, I'm not going to, like, try and play these underhanded games with you. Like, when you play those underhanded kinds of games, you expose yourself for what you really are. What do the kids call it these days? The Streisand effect, right? Like, that whole reverse psychology thing you learn from Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, duck season, fire. That whole thing, right? It's the oldest trick in the book, and we all know it, right? Like, criminals know that cops use this good cop versus bad cop trick all the time. The cops are on the same team against the criminal, but the criminal will sit there and think that, oh, well, this cop's being nice to me, so he must be my friend. No. It's like, oh, Donald Trump's being attacked by the left. He must be a good guy. No. They attack their own to convince you that they're on your side. And then they tell you the things you want to hear. Remember, they have access to all your data. They know what you want. They know your deepest fears, your deepest desires. They know what, corn you like to watch. They know what video games you like to play. Right? Like, they know what guys you think are cute. They know if you're cheating on your husband or your wife. They know how many kids you got. They know how much money you make. They know how many bank accounts you've got. They know everything that is in the digital space. AI can sort it all. See, that was the problem they had. The intel agencies, the government, like the globalists, see, they have access to all this data on the internet. They just couldn't sort it all. Well, now they have AI and they can. They absolutely can sort it all, and they can follow everything you do, which makes all this way easier. This social alchemy, if you will. So, I plead with you all. Try and seek balance. If you feel yourselves getting angry, ask yourselves, like, how do the globalists benefit from me attacking my neighbor? Because you're like, what's the number one rule of America, folks? What's the number one rule of America? Whatever you wish upon your neighbor will be visited upon you. That's the very basics of freedom and privacy, right? Freedom and privacy. Like, if you want it, then you have to afford it to people you don't like. That's the crux of the matter. You can go on a holy war against everything you don't like, but it's just going to come back and bite you in the end. Because the people that you cede the power to in order to restrain your enemy is also your enemy. If you empower a more powerful enemy to take out your neighbor, what do you think is going to happen? Oh, they're going to come for you, right? Like, just like the left had been lied to about the Ukraine war and the reasons that that was kicked off, the right are being lied to about the whole Venezuela war thing and the war with Iran. Like, it's the same game. Why so many have trouble seeing that is, it's a constant frustration for people like myself, right? The whole machine relies on all of us continuing to play this game, continuing to let them wind us up and sick us on one another, rather than us pointing our attention to them. As I've said many times, I'm an Orthodox Christian, which means that, a lot of my tendencies are what people would call conservative, but a lot of my tendencies are also somewhat liberal and compared to what the conservatives would want, which is complete censorship and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's why they do this. It's the same thing as the things that the left are doing, parading things in front of kids and everything. It's to wind the right up. It's to wind the right up and to give the left a false sense of confidence. It's just like the things that the political right do, to wind the right up and give them a false sense of confidence to where they'll go along with, I don't know, digital IDs, mass AI surveillance that they intend to keep on you 24/7, 365. They use any excuse they need to. Any excuse they need to. And both sides will do it if you let them. Alright. Anyway, that's my little rant for today. I hope you guys have, a great rest of your weekend. Think about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. YouTube doesn't tell me when you guys comment or anything. I have to go and hunt everything down myself because, you only get boosted on these platforms if you play into the division. If you don't play into the division, you're not going to get any help. Right? That's just how it is. I'm fine with that, though. At least I can sleep at night with a clearer conscience, knowing that I'm not trying to grift on you or, put something in your head that like ought not be there. Like, don't trust me blindly. Never. Never, never. Anything I say, go look for yourself. Uh, I give all kinds of good, places like to go and research this kind of stuff in my videos. Jason Burmis, Jay Dyer, um, let's see, James Corbett. I don't agree with everything they say. I don't agree with everything anyone says. But I don't steer you towards anyone who would outright lie to you. We might have some minor disagreements on things like, Corbett is a libertarian. Well, I'm not a libertarian, but I have some libertarian tendencies. I do agree with him on some things, right? So, there's good to be found in most worldviews, right? The left are right about some things. The right are right about some things. The truth is almost always somewhere in the middle, folks. But again, I digress. I'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Much love, folks.